There are 8 million of us. Statisticians rank the San Francisco Bay Area as the 5th largest metropolitan area in all the United States. So many people. So much traffic. So many buildings. So much suburban sprawl. And yet, in the middle of all that, there are still places like this. Welcome to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney. I am only 12 miles from downtown San Francisco. I'm just over the hill from Oakland. But in the middle of this massive metropolitan area, I am out in a tiny, rustic little community. On this episode of Eye on the Bay, we once again head down a road to nowhere, but end up somewhere in a self-sustaining community hidden deep in a redwood forest, a simple place with a simple name. Canyon. We'll go back in time and examine Canyon's literal roots. Roots that grew into mighty trees where a town flourished. And then, in the middle of the 20th century, just as the Bay Area's population was booming, Canyon had to fight for its survival.
The only way they're getting me out of this house is feet first.
And in a way, they're still struggling, because while living in Canyon may be beautiful, it ain't always easy.
Yeah, this is the commute home.
We'll visit some unique homes and learn what it's like to live in the middle of a forest. We'll also check in on a truly one-of-a-kind school system.
You need to give yourself a good hat. Give a hat. Canyon School!
But first, where is Canyon? And how on earth, this part of Earth anyway, did people come to live here? San Francisco Bay is surrounded by 3 of California's largest cities, San Jose, San Francisco, and Oakland. And just 2 miles from downtown Oakland? Who would guess that just over the Oakland Hills is a rural backwoods? After work and in a hurry, many of us rush through these hills, into Caldecott Tunnel, on our way to bedrooms in bedroom communities. But if you care to step off the hamster wheel, you might want to take the Orinda exit off Highway 24 and turn south onto Moraga Way. Now, if you drive into Orinda and through to Moraga, you'll arrive at a crossroads, literally and figuratively, called Canyon. You can also reach Canyon from the South Bay by driving north out of Castro Valley along Redwood Road. If you follow Canyon Road onto Pinehurst Road, in just a few minutes you're suddenly in a deep canyon, lined with giant redwood trees so tall they block out the sun. Temperatures in the summer are as much as 20 degrees cooler. The perfect place for, say, a national park, but you might be surprised to learn that you're in the middle of a living, breathing town. I mean, when you're in the middle of a redwood forest, the last thing you expect to see is a post office or a school. And hidden up in the hills along a private road is an entire community. Welcome to Canyon 94516. It all began with the redwoods, didn't it?
Yes, this is probably the farthest inland that the redwoods, the coastal redwoods, which are the big tall ones, ever grew.
They're 150-year-old second-growth redwoods. The first ones were chopped down. Author John Vanderzee wrote the definitive book on Canyon. How did the community of Canyon begin?
It was originally a lumber camp, and this was all logged out, first by the Spanish, and then the Mexicans, and then early Americans, and pounced on the redwood here, which makes very good building materials.
San Francisco needed wood, and the best wood was redwood, and some of the tallest redwood grew here, in a place they called, naturally, Redwood Canyon. The lumberjacks built a town here, and they lived as hard as the wood they felled.
And then it became kind of like a frontier town with a lot of bars and outlaws.
Saloons stocked with plenty of whiskey, and hotels, plenty of women. But after they chopped all the trees down, the lumbermen left. Even the town's name was sawed off. Redwood Canyon became just Canyon. As the redwoods slowly returned, San Franciscans built summer cottages in scenic Canyon, a haphazard community sprouted in the woods.
And they had just a little, general store with bread, milk, essentials.
Elena Terrell's grandfather ran the general store.
And it was the post office and store combined.
3 generations later, and on the same patch of ground, Elena is now Canyon's postmaster. Elena's dad, Joe Mengi, who had a job in Oakland, was among a group of people who, after World War II, skipped the tidy tract homes sprawling into the East Bay.
Bordering gently sloped, winding streets.
And instead, he moved into the summer cabins in Canyon to live in them, but full-time. Mengi raised 7 girls, including Elena. They all attended the Canyon School. The townsfolk went to parties at the local dance hall. Canyon was, by any measure, a town.
I remember my parents and all their friends being pretty straight-laced.
Then came the 60s.
Then little things started to change.
There goes the neighborhood. The so-called hippies moved into the Redwoods and built their own version of suburbia, odd-shaped houses and shanties.
So I built that. That was the original cabin.
They built homes without plans, without permits.
You didn't own the land, right?
No.
But the guy who owned the land said, go ahead.
Yeah, he was cool with it.
The counterculture took root.
Wake up in the morning with birds waking you up and flowers growing in the windows, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else if I have to live in the Bay Area.
County officials became alarmed. Suburbia was in chaos.
We were all a bunch of dirty hippies, and and there were sex communes out here. And
The Hill Jack lumbermen, it seemed, were back, and so was the booze and the pretty women, and now drugs. So officials decided to wipe Canyon off the map once and for all.
And then in the end, they condemned every house but one and told us to tear them all down again.
When we come back, the fight to save Canyon.
They came here to escape the crunch of urban life and are determined to defend what they feel is a sanctuary.
And how Canyon survived.
And here we are today. Yeah, so it was suggested that we go up here and build a house, since we were living in the Volkswagen bus. So we went up here and found a nice spot.
Kirk Allen is a self-described hippie who in the late 60s wandered into Canyon and built a home for his family.
How did you know how to build a cabin?
I didn't, I learned.
Still, 40 years later, the only way to Kirk's old house is to hike several hundred yards up a steep ravine.
So I built that. That was the original cabin.
His castle.
Well, you can see we did nice jobs. It has like rafters and everything.
Then, one morning,
And up the trail comes like who knows how many sheriff's deputies, and they nail a keep out this property condemned sign on our door. This notice is given pursuant to section blah blah blah, and tell us that we'll be subject to arrest if we don't vacate the premises in 24 hours.
They're saying your home was a nuisance.
Yes.
The home you built.
Right.
County officials condemned virtually all the homes in Canyon.
Why did they so have it out for you guys?
That's a very good question.
The answer was on the other side of the hill, in Oakland, at the East Bay Municipal Utilities District, or East Bay MUD.
The power play here is on the part of the East Bay Municipal Utility District to move these people out and then turn it over to some commercial purpose, possibly subdivision.
Probably when people start coming out here on the BART trains and looking for a place to live, little valleys like this one aren't going to be here anymore. They're going to have houses in that little valley down there, just like they've got walnut trees planted in there now.
East Bay MUD for years had been buying property in and around Canyon. The utility said the citizens of Canyon were contaminating the water supply downstream, but the real reason, some guessed, was that the county did not appreciate the indigenous inhabitants, the so-called hippies.
See, those were the days, there were the 60s. People drank alcohol. People smoked marijuana.
Whatever the reason, the county wanted the long hairs out of their hair. Battle lines were drawn.
It's sort of a David Goliath thing, We chucked a couple of rocks and Sadly, that actually is true. There was some rock throwing.
They had thought, oh, we're just a bunch of dumb hippies living out there. And then they found, no, this is something else, that they were among some very sophisticated people.
And this resulted in 200 hours of hearings in Martinez.
Here is a younger Kirk at one of the hearings. The hippies hired a lawyer who proved to East Bay Mud that residents didn't need a fancy sewage treatment plant. They could build a smaller facility and maintain it themselves. The utility looked over the plans.
And finally they said, we can't do this because it's never been done before.
Then the county said the hippie houses weren't up to code.
I have a daughter, a 10-year-old daughter, and I wish I had the documentation to show you on her treehouse. Her treehouse was condemned because it doesn't have plumbing. This is a 7x7 structure in a tree.
And so it went back and forth, the hippies versus the establishment.
It has united the community with the will to fight.
The only way they're getting me out of this house is feet first.
And then we went from scared and outraged to getting organized to do battle with these people, which we did. And oh boy, here we are, so I guess we won.
They won by being smart and by being tough and being scrappy and standing up for their rights. And in doing that, they did something for all of us.
Canyon's legacy is the way the entire Bay Area looks at future development, not to mention one of the most interesting communities in all the world, Canyon itself.
Coming up, what's it like to live in Canyon today? Off the proverbial grid, right here in the Bay Area. Heck, some people don't even own a television, so they do not have the luxury of doing what you're about to do. Stay tuned as Eye on the Bay's look at the community of Canyon continues.
This is Eye on the Bay, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Eye on the Bay from Canyon, just over that ridge from downtown Oakland. Earlier, we showed you how people fought to live in this redwooded paradise, and in a way, residents here are still struggling, because living in Canyon may be beautiful, but it ain't always easy. What kind of person lives here?
A person who is willing to sacrifice comfort for freedom.
This was your commute home.
Yeah, this is the commute home.
Now, the name is Canyon, and with canyons come hills, and with hills come stairs. I mean, can you imagine armloads of groceries being hauled up these stairs every time you get back from the grocery store? Neither can some of these people. That's why they have constructed this, an elevator. Or should I say, a hill-elevator. Flick of the switch. Still, it takes this resident 15 minutes to haul groceries up to the house. The main road through Canyon is a meandering, climbing, slippery snake. Addresses are marked with slapdash signage. The canyon's so deep, global positioning satellites and cell phones can't penetrate it. As you hike through Canyon, you'll likely have to step over somebody's phone line.
For heat, they burn firewood. To heat up water, propane. Some don't have television, some are off the grid. But what about internet? It's here.
One clever resident snags a Wi-Fi signal beamed from a far-off neighbor and then mails it to himself.
There it is. Wireless router right inside the old mailbox.
And water in Canyon is always a concern. You're in charge of getting your own.
You're cleaning that spring and mending those pipes, or you're not going to have water.
Which is then rationed, and roads are maintained by the entire community.
Okay, would everyone please sit down?
Esperanza Searles, a teacher at Canyon School, grew up here. Once she borrowed some lumber from her dad to fix up the school.
I said, oh, thanks a lot, Dad, you're the greatest. And then afterwards, he said, you know, when the road committee came and got rock for me, the guy said the same thing to me. And I said, what's that? And he said, thanks, Dad. It was my brother.
The population of Canyon is roughly 200 rough people.
A tight-knit community of rugged individualists.
Everyone has an emergency phone tree stuck to their fridge. There's no mail delivery. People gather at the Canyon post office, where neighbor Elena Terrell is postmaster.
You must know everybody in town.
I do. I do.
Yeah, you must know everything in town.
Some things I wish I didn't. Mm-hmm.
So what's the benefit of living here? No cell phones or cable TV. You've got to count your toilet flushes. A hike just to get to and from your house? Why live here? This is why. Homes here have a view of the gorgeous canyon for which the town is named. Some are elaborate structures. Some are, well, just structures. Some are palatial. One resident built himself a cozy log cabin, replete with a recording studio.
Do people ever tell you to turn stuff down in here?
No. No. In fact, I'll record with the doors open a lot of times.
Yeah.
Anybody close enough to hear anything in here is trespassing. So you don't have to worry about it, really.
These aren't cookie-cutter tract homes, and that's just the way the people of Canyon like it.
It's proof that you can be rich without and live close to nature without having a lot of money if you're willing to make the sacrifices. Sacrifice a little in the way of comfort, but what you get in return, if it's meaningful for you, is infinitely richer.
Where's the Oakland city limit from here?
Less than a mile.
Next, why parents from all over the Bay Area send their kids to school in Canyon. There's a waiting list.
Hey, get up! It's time to go to school. Canyon School, after a break. Welcome back to Eye on the Bay. I'm Brian Hackney in Canyon. Now, any self-respecting town has a post office and a school. Eye on the Bay correspondent Dave Stoelk checks out a unique school in the Bay Area.
Now, I'm not going to be trite. Canyon School is not your allegorical one-room schoolhouse. It's actually 3 rooms. One room for kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grades, another room for grades 3, 4, and 5, and a room for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Canyon School is part of the vast Canyon School District, of which Gloria Faircloth is superintendent. Superintendent of the entire school district?
Of the entire school district.
Wow, how many schools?
1.
Chris Kerrigan is Canyon School's principal.
Well, I'm principal/teacher, and maintenance person if needs to be done, substitute cook, substitute teacher, basically whatever needs to be done, I pick up.
So you get a lot of paychecks?
No.
Everybody jumps in and does everything.
Is this kind of like a hippie school?
I have never taken hippie to be a pejorative word.
I dreamed I saw a mighty room.
Canyon School is what some say kept the town rooted during the turbulent 60s when the county was trying to uproot the community.
We have a zip code and a school district. Those are our only 2 official entities that help us remain a town.
Esperanza Searles is a product of Canyon School.
What's the point of that, Dante?
Now she teaches here. What makes Canyon School so special?
Well, a lot of it is the environment.
I mean, really, how many kids get to have recess in the middle of a redwood forest?
Because I never expected a school to be like this, like in the middle of the forest with a creek and so small.
70 students total, and they're not all from Canyon. The school accepts students from all over the Bay Area, tuition free. Canyon is a public school.
We have kids from Oakland, Berkeley, Walnut Creek.
At my old school, there was like just cars all around, and there was just like cement.
It's not just the redwood trees that attract students, it's the curricula.
We believe in fostering creativity, and we do a lot of project-based discovery learning, and that stuff is great at any age.
There are differences, but we have to get to the same standards. We take the exact same tests.
In fact, Canyon School scores high on state assessments, which means lots of people want to come learn under the shade of these redwoods.
We have a large number of students on wait list.
And what do you do here?
I'm the cook at Canyon School.
This is not like the menu at other schools, is it?
I hope not.
Let me see, fettuccine alfredo, cheese tortellini, all natural pot stickers, clam chowder.
Yeah, I make all the soups from scratch, and the kids love it. We have people from the community come down and have lunch. They call in the morning and say, do you have room for one more? And
people actually come here for lunch?
Oh, yeah. All the meat is either organic or hormone-free, pesticide-free.
Of course, after all, this is a hippie school, but what's so wrong about that?
It's not a hippie school, but it once was, and to me, the principles of hippiedom, which I guess would be peace, recognition of each individual voice, and opportunity to make your own choices, those are things that I think we do value as a community.
To put an end to war.
And that'll wrap up our trip into Canyon and this episode of Eye on the Bay. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and also at our website, cbs5.com/Eye on the Bay. For now, I'm Brian Hackney. See you next time a little further on down the road to nowhere. Thanks for watching.